The Torah says God's hand, God's head, God's mouth, God's foot, but even God's anger, His pleasure, even He spoke. Aren't these all human conditions? So why do we know that He doesn't really have a hand, He doesn't really have a head, He doesn't. So why do we use these expressions? So the answer is to help you understand a little bit, of giving you a little bit of a picture of. But that doesn't make sense, because if He doesn't have a hand, then by telling me that He has a hand, you're not helping me. You're just confusing me. So what does it help me understand when the Torah says that the Eibishter has a hand and He doesn't have a hand? So what do I understand now? That is a very important question. You know what an important question means? It affects everything. Because here's the reality. When the Rambam says, one of the Ikrim, that the Eibishter is not a body and He doesn't have the conditions of a body, etc., etc., it means that the Eibishter is not physical. So when the Torah says that the Eibishter has a hand or a head, or that He speaks, or that He's angry, it means that He has a real hand, a real head. He really gets angry. We only do those things begashmias, which is not the real thing. So a physical hand is not a real hand. The Eibishter's hand is a real hand. What's the difference between a real hand and a not real hand? When the Eibishter raises His hand, the sea splits. When a human being raises his hand, only the seam splits. So there's a real hand and there's a not real hand. So when the Torah says the Eibishter's hand, does He really have a hand? Of course He does. The question is, do we? Do we have a real hand? We have a little hand, because we are created in His image. So He has a real hand, we have a little hand. Does the Eibishter really speak, or is that just human beings? You see the point? The Eibishter really speaks. Do we really speak? When I say let there be, there's light? There's nothing. So who really speaks? So when it says the Eibishter doesn't have a hand, it means He doesn't have a gashmizdike hand. Of course not, because that's not a real hand. That's just something that hurts every now and then. So, what does it mean that the Torah uses words like hand and head and thing on the Eibishter to help us understand? What it means is, if the Eibishter's hand is real, that's what a hand is, then why do you call my hand by the same word? The answer is so that you get a little bit of an idea what the Eibishter's hand is. But if the Eibishter didn't have a hand, it wouldn't help to say He has a hand. Let's make believe. Does that satisfy you a little better? Okay. So the general idea is, how did we become the reality and He is not? We really talk, He doesn't. We really have a hand, He doesn't. We really get angry, He doesn't. What, did we become the Eibishter here? So does the Eibishter really get angry? Or, nah, He doesn't really get angry. Come on, that's too human. No, we don't really get angry. We just get upset. We just can't take it. He gets angry. Who's really jealous? You're jealous? No, He's jealous.
But He's not allowed to be.
He's not allowed. It's against the Torah?
Yeah, one that says difference, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. In the says the difference, it says, don't be jealous of somebody's donkey. He's not. He's jealous of your ahava. If you give your ava to some false god, he's jealous. And that's the way it should be.
What about if he's angry? He's not allowed to be angry either.
Why not?
Because it's a form of, well, I was gonna
Avodah
say
Zarah.
that.
Right.
Okay.
So why is it okay for him to be angry and not for us? Why is it okay for him to be selfish? Why can he say anoichi, and we're not allowed to say anoichi? Huh?
By him it's real. When we say nechir, we say it's us. We're only a reflection of him.
If you're in somebody's house, if you're in somebody else's house, and he says, don't use this room. Oh, he's being selfish. Oh, he's not, it's his house. But if you walk into somebody else's house and you open the refrigerator and take what you want, that's not acceptable. So if this wasn't his world, then he wouldn't have the right to be angry either. But in his world, if you're messing up his world, sure, he should be angry. What about people who are living in his world? Well, what do they got to be angry about? It's not your world. So if you get angry, you're acting as if you're the Eibishter. If you do whatever you want in somebody else's house, you're acting as if it's your house. Well, it's not. So behave yourself. It's not your house.